Why are you listening to this podcast right now? Because I know there's different people listening. And different people listen for different reasons. Some are listening because it's new. It was a suggestion. It popped up. They say, let me click on that. Let me see what that's about. Some are listening to scrutinize. Hey, yo, what the is this dude talking about? Like, man, this cat, he don't know what he talking about. Yo, he this, that, he that. But some are listening to intensely scrutinize. And it's cool. Some are listening like, yo, this joint is really good. Yo, this cat might really make his presence known here soon. Like, I'm going to have to get to know this cat. I'm going to have to get a little closer before he really takes off. And then there's that group that I personally prefer to focus on, which is like, yo, this is so good. Like, I'm freaking geeked. I can't wait for next week's episode. Like, oh my gosh, I can't get enough of this. Yo, this joint is so good. Like, that's the group I choose to focus on. There's billions of people in the world, and there's an audience for everyone. 1 billion, that's a large number too. That's 31 years in terms of seconds. Can you imagine what kind of head count that would equate to? And that's just 1 billion. There's about 8.1 billion people in this world. You do the math, 8.1, 31 years for each of those 1 billion. There will never be a shortage of audience for anyone on this earth. Equate people to seconds. Looking at things from that perspective.
Yo, that makes sense.
And math starts mathing proper, sensible.
A little more reasonable.
In a way that can or will for some provide you more confidence towards moving towards your desired objectives. Those that this ain't for, why am I going to focus my attention on them? It ain't going to serve me. I'm not speaking to them. Matter of fact, I'm not speaking to anyone other than myself. People used to ask me when I was first starting the podcast, like, yo, who's your audience? Who's your target audience? Who are you speaking to? It's me. I had to change all the BS that was coming into me. Not just silencing, but flooding out some of those old inner voices, because the mind always goes back to dwell on the familiar past, because even though it's traumatizing, it's so comfortable. My goal is keep improving so that when I personally go back and listen, I get geeked off hearing myself. Not from the ego standpoint of, oh, I just like hearing my voice for the pessimist. Nah, simply from the standpoint of, yo, I can't believe I said that. Like, I put that combination of words together. Those thoughts came to me and I spit that joint out. Damn, that was good, yo. That was articulate. That wasn't me, yo. That was like, that came from something that extends beyond me. That was the collective conscious right there. As above, so below. Better results tend to result as a result of things being respected and taken slow. The same degree of time, effort, and energy that you invest into something, to that same degree is going to be the degree of return you can expect to receive from that investment. It's not going to be any more. It's coming back in exact proportion. The thing about a universal law, you can't escape the universal laws. What goes around is going to come back around at some point. The karmic cycle is going to make its way back around. If you expect respect, expect to give return respect for the respect that you expect. Otherwise, don't expect respect. For every cause, there's an effect. For every sequence, there is a con or opposing sequence. Con sequence. The level of truth you choose to function at will determine the outcome of your circumstances. Essentially, that kind of correlates with what Albert Einstein was saying when he said that everything is energy. That's all there is to it. You match the frequency of the reality that you want, and you can't help but have that reality. It can be no other way. The level of truth that you choose to function at is the level of frequency within truth, or that embodies that truth that you function at. And the level of that will determine the outcome of your circumstances. You put time, effort, and energy into cooking a meal. Take your time, go through the necessary steps. Don't put too much of this. Don't put too little of that. That's going to determine the depth of the outcome of this meal. Whether it's just going to be a basic meal. And people are cool with the basic meals. There's nothing wrong with the basic meal. Just something to put in your stomach right quick. Little easy mac. I got by, nothing with no real nutritional value. Or is it going to be something that's talked about like, yo, oh my gosh, you made everything from scratch? Yo, that freaking chicken fettuccine Alfredo and you put the black truffle sauce? Oh my gosh, yo, all those details. The details get expressed with the same mind that functions at a high level of truth. See, truth knows that in order to achieve greatness, greatness must foster detail. Details express passion. Details express concern. Details show you care. When you pay attention to the details, it reflects that you're passionate. Almost like being in the moment. Like you're just taking everything you can in regards to where your focus is being directed. So some time ago, I was at this church. It was this dude. I didn't even know this dude. This was my first time meeting him. We was having a conversation. Out of nowhere, dude just started speaking life over me, yo. He was like, you know what your problem is? You always try and be the best at everything. And you beat yourself up when you fall short. You're a good father and a good husband. You love your kids. and your wife's been very patient with you. And it's time for you to be patient with your wife. Yo, he just started. This dude, mind you, we just met that day, that evening. It was at a rehearsal. I didn't even know this dude, yo. After the rehearsal, he was just talking to me and a friend of mine. It was crazy. When he spoke, it was like he spoke. And my grandmother was still alive during this time. But it was like he channeled her spirit in a sense. Like the way he worded, the way he spoke, the rhythm of his speech was just like my grandmother. And I'm like, yo, I'm receiving what this dude is saying, yo. Damn, yo, that was accurate, yo. Like, what the hell, yo? Like, that's when, hey, flesh and blood didn't reveal that to me. It was one of those type of moments. I was like, yo, that was crazy. And then he did the same to my boy. And it was funny because my boy and I, we was talking afterwards. The revelation he gave my boy wasn't as... It was funny too because my boy was like, yo, bruh, you wasn't lying, bruh. Bruh, no lie, I was just last night, like... Man, this shit's good. I ain't gonna last too long. Life consultants, as it pertains to me and my life, are those I feel and believe know me. People who know me are reasonable. People that know me because they've studied me. They've studied my moves and know the rhythms of my movements, or the rhythms that the movements of my life gives off, the rudiments of my life. And I'm aware of that because of how they speak to me. People who truly know you have studied you. They've picked up on the rhythms of how you move, kind of like music. A person may not know all the lyrics or any of the lyrics to a song that they like or they just familiar with, but they recognize the tune. And whether it be consciously or subconsciously, the more that they are around that tune or engaged with that tune, the more they're going to begin to pick up on these little details of this tune, the inflections of this tune, the lyrics that this tune is providing, all these little details. It's funny though when people like a song but then don't know the lyrics but still try to sing it anyway. See, when people really know you or really want to know you, they're going to at least lock into the tune of you. They're going to recognize, you know what? This person moves differently, but I respect it. And you're going to lock into the tune of them as well. You're going to recognize that, yo, this person ain't phony. The coolest people I've come across in my life were always the most reasonable people, always the most respectful individuals. They didn't speak with belittlement. They weren't condescending. They were people who were optimistic and considering. They were people who, when I spoke to them, I knew they were listening. True patterns get recognized by their consistency. You alert yourself to deeper levels of realness when you pause and take a deeper look within yourself, a deeper examination of how you engage people in conversations that you care for, that you like, how you listen attentively, and as a result are able to respond truthfully. Your calm and caring reception of this individual allows you to channel different frequencies within their speech as they speak, and this calm within you begins to pique something in your mind. It triggers a hot spot that for a moment becomes the focal point at the forefront of your mind that says, you know what? I can relate to this person. Like, nah, dead ass. Like, listening to them, I'm channeling the spirit behind what it is they're saying, and I recognize that spirit. I felt within myself the exact same way before and these are the thoughts that go through your mind before you respond. And now your response comes from a place of matched frequency. Now you're speaking at a range that evenly matches the value that was put out. Terminal value. Real recognizes real. Real picks up on patterns. Real in terms of an individual is someone who always strives to live to the highest possible standard that they can live. Are you an individual that's gonna roll them lemons, squeeze them out and make lemonade? Or do you prefer the Crystal Light route? Mix some powder together. Dan Penna, I could just play the audio right quick.
I've never, from 1971 to 1997, I didn't take a day off. Not a day off. And I got married on one of those days. Nobody ever had to motivate me. I've never, ever been corrected for making a mistake in my 51 years in business. Never once. I'm always the most prepared in the room. Always, even now.
For 26 years, he hasn't taken a single day off in his work, even on the day he got married, and no one ever had to motivate him. He hadn't made a single mistake on a job in 51 years in business. Immediately, this thought came to me. There's two minds, two different thought trains that could potentially be jumped on by the individual receiving that bit of information. one thought train, the more common thought train, they're going to look at that and say, that's not possible. What do you do for work? When is your day off? They're going to find every possible reason by asking every question, trying to create any hole they can to disprove this man's statement. The pessimistic mind, it's the crabs in the bucket mentality. It goes after lack. It's just geared to focus on lack, loss, what can't be, what isn't, how this isn't possible, how that's not possible, all things that align on the negative side of the spectrum. And I'm going somewhere with this because unbeknownst to many, this thought process has become an ingrained consistency as a result of battered conditioning. A fool believes there is no God. So because there is no God, there's no godly standard to follow. When you look at a standard of God, it's a standard of perfection. And what this man essentially is saying is, let me reword that. What's being implied is that to a degree, he's achieved that in his life. Not to the ultimate degree that everything in his life is perfect, but to a degree in this particular area, he's achieved that standard of perfection. One of the synonyms for fool was victim. Victims look at hard circumstances and they say, you know what? That standard, that's too hard of a standard to achieve. That's too much work to have to be put in. So I'd rather just not. I'd rather just stick to what I've always known and do what I've always done, accepting whatever fate is going to eventually come my way instead of actually going and taking the initiative and becoming the master of my fate. Yeah. And this is not what gets said, but this definitely gets communicated through people's movements and to some degree how they speak. Oh, I guess it wasn't God's will for my life to be rich, to be married, to have all these wonderful things that I see in front of me that other people have, that if I be honest with myself, I have the desire for these things, but not the desire to work towards these things, to go any further than where I currently am. I'm not this, or I'll never be that. All this negative self-talk as a result of years and years and years of negative conditioning, not necessarily intentionally, nor entirely, but to a degree. It's traumatic. And I say that because for most, if not many, it's not your intention to be that way. On the other hand, you have optimistic minds, people that are go-getters, people that are hopeful, people that see opportunity in everything. And they're looking at him like, yo, that's the standard. Like, that's the level I need to get to. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm living the highest possible and achievable standard that I as an individual can live. That's what real is. Real is hard, but a higher, more perfected, more polished standard is achievable. A real individual who's not a fool understands that that standard is achievable. There's too many people in this world embracing victimhood. It's devastating. Stop living in the past. It doesn't help the collective whole when you devastatingly embrace victimhood in life. Sorry to tell you this, but when you devastatingly embrace victimhood in life,
you become a devil.
If you focus on results, you'll never change. But if you focus on change, you will get results. Take time sometimes to observe your thoughts and examine scenarios from a different vantage point. Whole brain thinking is non-biased perspective. Sometimes it's necessary to remove the gates of old biased perspectives, giving yourself a clearer line of sight to be able to fully see your intended objectives. Enough pain will cause one to ask questions that a cozy existence wouldn't stimulate one to ask. When you truly want something in life, you go after it without limiting yourself with disbelief. The limits of a human being oftentimes are self-imposed. Something you want to keep in mind is that what you truly want in life truly wants you back to the same degree, odd as that may seem. Law of attraction. A flawed plan executed with certainty is better than a perfect plan executed with doubt. Let me repeat that for the people in the back. Gotcha, D. A flawed plan executed in certainty is always better than a perfect plan executed in doubt.
Always.
Making a decision and then making that decision the right decision, correcting it along the way, is better than not making a decision until you feel sure you've made the right decision. Truth be told, there is no correct decision except for the decision that you make correct. You can sometimes miss out on so many opportunities, so much fulfillment, so much fun, constantly trying to live in perfection. You know, perfection becomes such a burden that it doesn't allow you to tap into your best energy, your highest and truest creative, free-spirited energy, because it always becomes about pleasing someone else or living up to the standards of someone else or the expectations of someone else, which most of the time ain't even their expectations because they're busy worrying about living up to somebody else's expectations to even be worried about whether or not you're living up to theirs. So it's just worry within yourself ultimately. When you do things in life, do things with your best energy. Do things in certainty. Like, yo, I believe in me, irrespective of what anyone else might believe. And when your creative flow is on 10, do it again. Positive anything is better than negative nothing. Having that creative spirit and that creative certainty and completing a goal is like when an investor instructs you to purchase a second house or a second property or vehicle or whatever it is you're investing in, speaking clearly on behalf of investors, during the finalization period of your current purchase. Because it took a lot to get up to that point to where you could even be able to make that purchase. So if you're looking to invest, you want to purchase as much as you can while you can, with what means you can, before the creditors can scrutinize your credit. That's the same thing with creative flow. When you're in that creative flow and you execute on the ideas while in that creative flow, do it again and do it again while that flow is still there, while that creative window is still open in your mind. Because once that window closes, that momentum has to be built again to get that thing to open back up again. It's not just gratifying, but it's rewarding when you do things with your best energy. You probably have or will post about it anyway. Think about it, when you go back and look at story archives or old posts, or you get one of those yearly alerts regarding old memories on Facebook, you want to be able to look back and say, you know what, yo, that time or that day was a vibe. That time was a vibe. And it's crazy because we look so young, or I look so young, but it was only 2 years ago, or it was only a year ago. It's sad because sometimes it's harder to truly appreciate the vibe until the vibe is past. Just like people in a sense, relationships. When you're living the vibe or creating the vibe, it's hard to see the vibe from within the vibe. Kind of like riding a car. You can't see the outside of the car in its entirety from within the car. You're the subject sitting in the car. You're not able to fully see this thing from an objective view if you're sitting inside of it. Interestingly enough, this concept can also be applied to beliefs and ideologies.
That, my friend, would be a whole nother podcast.
The peace levels to this, bruh. Ha, ha,
The power of darkness shall be